Welcome to the C-Suite Mentor, the place where you will learn the tools, strategies, and mindset to scale your business sustainably and build a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Theresa. As a fellow CEO, I understand what it takes to scale a business to 7 and multiple 8 figures. It's not necessarily what you might think. It requires a complete shift in how you think, strategize, and execute key actions in your business. My mission is to help CEOs step back into the driver's seat of their business by optimizing their operations, empowering their team, and staying in total alignment with their big vision. So, are you ready to exchange everything that hasn't worked for strategies that will? You're in the right place, so let's go. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of this C-Suite Mentor podcast. Let me just tell you, hang on to your seats because we have an amazing guest on the show today. I mean, we have amazing guests all the time, but this person is someone who is very special to me. He is a globally recognized thought leader. He is a business advisor. He's a CPA by education, a valuations expert, a financial expert, but he is also my personal mentor and business coach and has been for the past 7 years. So if you have been struggling with building wealth, and I mean wealth, building money in your bank account, but also building that wealth inside, the energy, the vision that you have for how you want to live your life and what you want to build and how you want to leave this planet, how you want to build your legacy, you have to listen to this episode. It is mind-blowing. I mean, absolutely mind-blowing. So the guest that we have on the show today is Mel Abraham. So if you don't know who he is, as I said, he is a CPA by education. He is a financial expert. He is a #1 best-selling author of The Entrepreneur's Solution. He is a top advisor to thought leaders and entrepreneurs and business owners all across the country, and really, I want to say globally. And he is amazing. And if you're like me and a lot of other folks, we've never really been taught how to build wealth and really live a rich life. And at the end of this episode, we're going to talk about the word rich. So make sure you listen till the end because Mel's definition of it and his philosophy around the word rich, we talk about that at the end of the episode. But let me just tell you, and he's also launching his new book, which is Building Your Money Machine. And I haven't read it yet, but I've seen excerpts from it. He has shared excerpts with me, and it's going to be a game changer. So I'm just going to be quiet here. I'm going to just stop my intro and get right to the episode because again, if you have never really been taught how to build wealth, how to build a wealth machine, how to really get into investing in what you need to do, what you need to steer clear of, this episode is for you and this book is for you. And we're going to talk about how you can pre-order the book because it doesn't come out until June 11th. So again, I'm going to get into the episode. So I'll see you on the other side. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the C-Suite Mentor podcast. I am joined today by somebody super, super special and somebody who is near and dear to my heart, Mel Abraham. If you haven't heard about him online, you better go find him online because he is amazing. Mel has been my mentor for, I think it's like, 6 years. It's been a while. I know that it's been a while. So, but I wanted to bring him on because we have been going through so much turbulence as a society with economy fluctuations and the pandemic back in 2020, which extended into like 2022. And in some cases, it's still after effects are still happening, but there's just been so much stuff, costs rising, inflation, and it's been impacting businesses, and it's also been impacting people personally. I know my husband's company just went through huge layoffs. I know a lot of corporations are laying people off. So there's a lot of stress and a lot of fear out there surrounding money, the lack of it, what to do with it, how to protect yourself, and how to insulate yourself. And I thought bringing Mel back on the show, because you were on my show 2 show names ago. You were on my show 2 show names ago. I looked it up.
Oh my God.
It was back when my podcast was called Your Next Best Step, which was two show names ago. So I wanted to bring Mel back on because Mel helped me navigate a lot of this stuff. And I know he can help you. So Mel.
Hi, Theresa.
Let's get started. So you've done a lot with your life. I met Mel.
That was a nice way of saying I'm old.
No, no, I didn't say that. You are young. You're a spring chicken.
And immature.
Yeah. Evidently. Yes. So so you've done a lot. I mean, when I met you, you helped me with my business. You helped me design frameworks and really take my knowledge and package it. But you've definitely moved, because I know your background. You are a CPA. You do valuations, evaluations expert, I should say. But you really moved into this whole realm of creating financial freedom, helping people build wealth. And wealth doesn't necessarily mean what people think it means. So what led you down this path and really went all in on all of this?
Oh, God. So it's a journey. I mean, it's almost like I went in a circle. I mean, I started out as a CPA, valuation, businesses, money, all that stuff. And I tried to avoid that, because I started really focusing on things like thought leadership and building businesses, but I kept getting tugged back in. And when you ignore the messages that life puts in front of you, they don't go away. They just get louder and louder and louder. And so I ignored the messages about people asking about money and this and that. And part of it was me going, I escaped the timesheet as a business model. I didn't want, and so what I was afraid of, honestly, is that if I started going down this path, it was going to be another one of those, hey, can I buy an hour of your time? And selling hours again. The bottom line is my time isn't for sale. And so no one can buy an hour of my time. No, the answer is no, you can't. You can buy solutions. But the thing is that what happened is that I was pushing things away. Well, we'll get to what really happened is in 2019, I found myself in a situation. Life was good. Everything was good. Business is great. Living on the beach, doing my thing. And then next thing you know, I hear 3 words you never want to hear in your life. And that is, you have cancer. They found a 5-centimeter tumor that turned out to be 7.5 centimeters in my bladder. And at the time, they looked and said, you might lose the prostate because of where it is. You might have to put a bag and a tube in for the kidney. If it's bad, you're going to lose your bladder. And let's face it, it's cancer. The life's on the line. So, in an instant, life got turned on its head. I had to shut everything down so I could fight. Now, I was fortunate that I built enough to allow me to fight without draining my assets, without draining a savings account, without changing let's call it my financial lifestyle. I had to fight the cancer medically, physically, mentally, all of it, but I didn't have to fight it financially. Now, that was June of 2019. Obviously, we all know what happened in 2020. The pandemic hit. And people struggled financially. And and then right after the pandemic hit, I had gone through my surgeries. I went through my treatments, everything I thought was good. And you were on that training in April. And
Yes.
the day after I finished my very first virtual event, because we went virtual from a live event because of the pandemic, in April, late April, I went in for another scope. And in that scope, they found that the cancer came back.
I remember
So
that.
now here I was thinking I was out of the woods, and it came back. So I started to spiral. I started to just get resentful, try to figure out, God, who did I piss off? Who did I wrong to get this, to deserve this? Because I didn't have any of the risk factors. I wasn't a smoker, wasn't a drinker. No one in my family's ever had cancer. I had no understanding of it. And I was walking on the beach, talking to a dear friend who said, you keep searching in your past. And I said, yeah. I said, I can't figure out what I did. And he says, what if the cancer wasn't because of something you did, but it's because of something you're meant to do? What would the message be? And that's when I started looking. I said, well, what's the biggest lesson that came out of this? The way I built my financial life kept me safe, allowed me to fight, allowed me to dedicate my time to the things that mattered most. And that was living at the time and beating this thing. And he said, had people during the pandemic understood and did what you did, would they have struggled during the pandemic? And I said, no. In fact, just yesterday, my wife's company went through a reorg. Okay. I've never gone through this because I consider myself unemployable. So I've had to have my own businesses to employ myself, you know? So she gets an email in the morning that says, stay home. We'll call you and we'll let you know the status of your job.
Oh my gosh.
So now she's fine. Okay. But there's two of her colleagues that got let go. Okay. One of them sat back and said, I'm good. I can retire even. So I'm okay. I'll decide what I'm going to do. They were very generous in the severance plan and all that stuff. Okay. They were very generous. But then there was another colleague that said, holy crap, I'm in trouble. I have to get a job really fast because I don't have anything. Now they're at the same level, which I'm assuming that they made about the same amount. But what that tells me is that they didn't do the same thing with it. And so what we need to be thinking about is how do we eliminate stress? American Psychological Association just released a study, said 72% of people are stressed about money and 22% have extreme stress. Y'all, this is the society we live in. The problem is they tell us not to talk about money. The problem is they say it's a taboo subject. But if we can't talk about it, if we're not supposed to talk about it, we can't solve the stress problem. Stress permeates our health. It permeates our relationships. It permeates the productivity at work, the focus of our employees, the profitability. It permeates everything. And so that's where I kind of sat back and said, let me take my skills. And instead of pivoting, which it wasn't a pivot, it was focusing. It says, let's just take all of it and let's focus on this aspect of it, because it all actually comes together. This idea of business and wealth and living a life and creating something. But the whole idea is this: we don't want financial freedom for the sake of having some big bank account. I know a lot of people with big bank accounts and they live bankrupt lives.
Yeah.
We want financial freedom because we want choice, because we want options, because I want to live a life that I get a chance to say I get to instead of I have to. A life that isn't based on demands, but decisions and choices. And that's what got me here.
So tell us, that's so powerful. I know the time when you had the conversation with the person on the beach, with the friend on the beach, but what he said about you keep searching in your past, and maybe this happened to to show you what something that you're meant to do. That like, I've never heard you say that before. And I've heard that story many times, but I've never, unless you said it and I just wasn't paying attention. But that
Which is
is, I
possible.
mean, that that is super powerful, and it definitely relates to everything that you've been teaching, like something that you're meant to do, and really taking all of your story and everything that you've been through as it relates to losing finances, building finances, and putting it together to help so many people. And I know you have a big mission.
I do.
And before
I'm on a crusade to light the path to financial freedom for 1 million families, and I know I can't do it alone.
yeah,
Money and wealth, not that it doesn't have to be complicated, it isn't complicated.
people
The
make it
problem is
complicated.
that we've either complicated in our minds, we believe the media, we believe the financial, industry and all of that. But it doesn't have to be that way. And it isn't beyond anyone, no matter what age or stage, no matter what your circumstances, no matter what side of the tracks you're on. It's not something that isn't meant for you. It is actually meant for you. I think it's your birthright. Now, granted, it may not be easy, but it can be simple. It may be a situation where the steepness of the hill and the size of the boulder that you have to push is different than mine. But just so we set level this, I didn't come from money. My dad, I'm a son of an immigrant who came here at 17 years old with nothing. Came here, went to school, got an engineering degree, worked in aerospace engineer all his life, didn't build riches. We lived in the same house all our life that we grew up in. It was, that's just what it was.
Yeah.
So what I was able to do was create in our life. Now, there's another study out there, 10,000 millionaires, that showed 79% of millionaires were first generation, meaning they did not inherit it. They didn't get it gifted and they didn't win it. They created it in their lifetime. 8 out of 10. That means that we got pretty good odds. 8 out of 10. Mm-hmm. And same study showed that 31% of them did it on an income that didn't really exceed much more than $100,000 a year. So it wasn't the income. It wasn't the birthright. It wasn't the side of the tracks. It wasn't the circumstances. Then what was it? It was the choices, the decisions, and the behaviors they had. That's what it is.
Because I know I have said to myself, because my dad, my mom stayed home with us until we were all in school. My dad was working. My dad was putting himself through school to get master's degrees. And so we didn't have a whole lot of money. And I know they also struggled with debt growing up. And I always saw my parents struggling with debt. At one time, they couldn't, and it was during a period where real estate was really bad, and they had 2 houses, they had 2 mortgages, and couldn't sell the one house. And I just remember the stress and the anxiety. And I've carried that forward with me as an adult. And, you said, like, it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter. And I know a lot of people tell themselves those stories, those stories, that can't happen for me because this is where I came from, because I'm just not capable of it. Or I can't have wealth because that's not how I grew up. So what would you say to somebody who has those money stories floating around based on their background?
Welcome to the real world. Because I will tell you, every single one of us, including me, and I've done a lot of work on it, have the stories. We cannot fix what's in our bank account until we fix what's between our ears. The thing is this. I've had a chance now over the decades that I've worked with people just starting out to, people that have 100,000, millions, hundreds of millions, and even billionaires. Every single one of them without fail have some element of shame or guilt around money. Every single one of them. It's a different version of it, but it exists. Here's the problem. Where does this come from? And in my upcoming book, I tell my earliest money story, which was seeing my dad cry. And it's like, what happened with you? Most of our money lessons are caught, not taught.
Yeah.
And why is that the case? Because we're told it's taboo. We're told not to talk about it. It's impolite to talk about money. So we watch, we see, and that's not where the problem is. Where the problem is we then interpret and we give it a meaning that we think makes it okay in our mind. But then we carry that meaning. I watched my dad cry at 5 years old with my mom and him having a conversation around money. I had no idea what the topic was, but I knew it had to do with money. And I just, for the first time ever, saw my dad cry. And hear him say, I feel like I'm disappointing the people I love the most. So I take that in and I go, so if I don't make enough money, I'm going to disappoint the people I love. Hence the chase to make money and try to make money and build money and money. Now, it wasn't for greed. It was because I didn't want to disappoint the people I love. It was for a good reason, but it wasn't productive because here's what happens. I end up as a single full-time dad. I'm taking care of my son. He's 5.5 years old, 6 years old. He comes running in and he says, Daddy, I drew a picture of you at school today. Now, I'm building my businesses, so I'm doing all the things that I need to do to make it work. And so I kneel down and I grab this picture and I look at the picture and here I am standing in front of 2 computer screens with a phone in each ear and one on the desk ringing. And he, in a moment, gave a mirror into my soul. And he was about the same age as I was when I saw my dad cry. And in that instance, when I saw my dad cry, I said, if I don't make enough money, I disappoint the people I love. In this moment with Jeremy, I have a picture in front of me that is telling me, even if you make enough money, you can disappoint the people you love. And now all of a sudden, I had to rethink everything to do with money and say, how does the ability to generate wealth, which is a statistic in a bank account, money, and your desire to serve the things that matter most, in this case being a dad. The greatest gift I was given was to be a dad at that time. And I was failing at it. And as much money as I could have in the bank account, if I failed at that, then I was a failure in my own. And so I had to look at it and say, how do they coexist? How do you think about it differently? How do you build it separately? And the key is this. In effect, the gist of the question I was asking was, how do I separate my ability to earn and build a life from the efforts to do it? And when I can separate it, that's what gives me the freedom, the choice, the options, and the possibility of a get-to life instead of a have-to.
So I'm going to pivot a little bit and I want to talk a little bit more about your book, because what you just said leads into the next thing I want to go into, which is, what people can find in this book. And I have not read the book yet, but I'm like super, super excited to read this, because most books out there that talk about wealth building and they talk about financial stuff, A, they're boring. B, it's just a bunch of theory and fluff. And what I can tell you going through, working with Mel, he does have a program that goes through all of this stuff and that you can actually get access to and go through it. But the thing that I love about Mel is he inserts all of his experiences, all of his things that may not have gone so well, the mistakes that he's made, but also the things that have worked amazing to get him to where he is today. And that is definitely what we're going to find in this book. And I wanted to pivot and talk a little bit because I know in the book and I know in your program, one of the other things that's taboo that people don't like to talk about or people shy away from is, do I need an investor? I don't know if I want an investor because I'm afraid I don't even know what they're talking about. I don't know what to do with my retirement. I don't know what to do with my 401k. And entrepreneurs, a mistake that they make is they leave corporate America and then they don't do anything. So all of that, and I know I was one of those people at one point in time where it just seems so scary to start putting these things in place. But like I said, one of the things that you're so amazing at is sharing and being transparent about your own experiences and using that to help people, make them feel comfortable so that they know that they can do it. Like you talk to people like they're people, like they're real people. And I think that in my exposure to and seeing other people that have worked with you, that's one of the things that has helped them so much to be able to understand these complex things. So let's talk a little bit about if someone, let's start with the retirement system.
Yeah.
So people have 401ks, people are investing in SEP IRAs and whatnot, but that system is broken.
Yes,
But
it
they're
is.
also afraid to say, I don't know how to talk. I don't know how to find a financial advisor. I don't know what to do. So I don't do anything. I just keep investing in a broken system. So what would you tell people or what can they find in the book that addresses all of this?
The book is the recipe. It is the prescription. I mean, I literally tell you specifically what to do with each dollar and where it goes first. Now, that's part of it. The book is part philosophy, money philosophy, money mindset, money strategy, money tactics. I want to give it to you, the frameworks, the processes, the systems and everything. It is built not on the theory, just because I'm a CPA. It's actually built from the road that I've run. And like Theresa said, like you said, I screwed up. I wiped out 1/3 of my net worth, had to rebuild it. I made some bad decisions. Y'all, if I made some $1 million educational mistakes, you ought to listen. You ought to listen and learn so you don't do the same thing I did. All right. But point being is this. It's also not your fault. We came up with industrial age thinking. And in the industrial age, you would work for a company, and most people would work for one company all their life. And in return for that loyalty, they gave us something called a pension plan. And that pension plan was a promise of a lifetime of income. Now, we all started living longer and it started to get more expensive. And so they said, wait a second, we can't afford this. So they started to stop these pension plans. In place of them, they gave us the 401k, they gave us the IRA, they gave us the Roth IRA, they gave us the SEP, they gave us all these other retirement vehicles, okay? But what they didn't give us is a couple things. When we were doing the pension, the only decision I had to make was, how long am I going to stay? Because I was part of the pension, like it or not. The pension was administered by them, not me. Like I'm part of I'm on boards of directors of different companies as an outside director. And one of them, I'm on the pension committee and we're managing a $50 million pension fund for the people.
Hmm.
They don't have to worry about the investing decisions. They don't have to worry about any of that. We take care of it for them. All they know is they're going to get their check. Okay. That's the way it used to be. But when they shifted it and gave us 401k and gave us SEP IRAs and gave us all that, not only did they shift it and put it in our lap, they put all the decision making in our lap. So now it was, do I participate? How much do I participate? How do I participate? How long do I participate? Oh my God, look at all these investments. What investments do I put it in? What's right for me? I don't understand the language. Go to HR. We can't give you advice. Go find someone. And now you're stuck. And what do you do when you do that? You do nothing. You do nothing. They dumped it in our lap without the education, the tools, and the empowerment to do the right things with our money. And I think it's a travesty what we've done to our employees and what we really need to. And here's the other challenge. It doesn't need to be that difficult. The answer is, should I participate? Yes. Yes. You cannot win the wealth game sitting on the sidelines or the stands. You got to get in the game. You got to be on the field playing the game if you want to win. So how you do it, different game, different for each person. But there is a recipe. I call it the wealth priority ladder in the book, where I literally break it down and say, look, every dollar has a purpose. Every dollar has a job description. And until it serves its job, you don't put another dollar in. And so you just follow the recipe. And complex investment schemes and all kinds of things, whether you're putting investments in life insurance, now forget it. Simple is going to win the day. When you first start out, you're going to get into 1, 2, maybe 3 investments. That's it. No complexity. Because when I wrote the book, and even in my own life, complexity creates friction. Friction creates risk. Risk creates loss. Mm. So I had to simplify. I had a lot of complex investments. When I got my new wealth team, they looked at it and they go, oh my gosh. They are professionals and they understood it, but they go, it's amazing that you have your arms around all of it with all this stuff going on. I said, let's simplify it. So we changed some things and we simplified it. Now I think that's where the challenge is really, it's skilling up. It's getting education. But before that, you got to understand that it isn't complicated. It isn't over your head. You don't have to go to college for it. You don't even need an advisor for it at the beginning. Because the first decision you got to make is to commit to get in the game. Then the second decision is how much you're going to be in the game for. And now you can sit back and say, all right, I got to decide what investment to go into. And I walk through it in the book, but you might just go into a single, what we call a target index fund. That's it. You're done. Let it roll. Or you might decide that you want to buy 2 or 3 ETFs and index funds, and that's it. You don't go in and say, hey, there's 15 things that I'm going to invest in. You can't keep track of it. You don't understand all of it. Even me, I don't keep track of it anymore. Not that way.
Right.
So I think that's the thing that we need to understand.
What about young people who, because I get this a lot in helping some of my clients start to think about, getting a benefits package or, thinking about starting a retirement package. But there's a lot of young people that say, oh, I'm too young. I don't need to worry about that. What's your answer to, I know you have an answer for this.
I do.
What's your answer?
The answer to when to invest will always be now. If you haven't started, like someone says, is it a good time to invest? I ask them, did you invest yesterday? Nope. Then now. Did you invest a month ago? Nope. Then now. Remember, you cannot win the game unless you're on the field. Here's why it does. The more time you have, the less dollars you need. The less time you have, the more dollars you need. Give you a real example. About 6 months ago, I'm on a call with one of my coaching groups, and I have a young kid in there named Henry. He was 17 years old at the time. When he joined, he was 16 and a half.
That's
and he
amazing.
said, I got a job. What do I do? I said, open up a Roth IRA. Okay. Got off the call. 3 weeks ago, we're on a call. He's on the call again. He says, I funded the Roth. Well, how do I invest it? What do I invest it in? And I go, 17 still? He says, no, I'm 18 now. I said, all right, how much did you invest in? I mean, how much did you fund it with? And he says, I'm thinking he's 18. What did he do? $500? $1,000? But I don't know, So he says, well, I fully funded 2023 and I already funded 2024. And I said, wait a second. You're 18 years old. Are you telling me that you funded 2023 for $6,500 and you already put in 7,000 for 24, the maximum there? He says, yeah, 13,005. He says, yeah, it's easier for me because I live at home. I'm going, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no fooling.
So I said, let me do some math for you for a moment. All we do is we take that and we put it in an S&P 500 fund. Now, the past doesn't necessarily equal the future, but the one thing I know about the stock market, it has never once gone to zero. And if it does, we have different problems.
Mm-hmm.
And
for sure.
The second thing is it always recovers in the long term. Always. Okay. So he's 18 years old. He put $13,500 away, put it in an S&P 500 fund. By the time he's 60 years old, it will multiply 107 times. 107 times. That means that by the time he is 60 plus years old, he has $1.2 million to $1.3 million if he did nothing. I'm going, Henry, all we got to do is avoid stupid. You're good. And he's like, whoa. And I said, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. But here's why this is important. He's 18, 107 times. If he waited 2 years, the 107 goes to 88. If he waited 5 more years and now at 25, the 88 goes to 44. If he waited 5 more years at 30 years old, that 44 goes to 23. Now, it's still great multiples, but when I hear a young kid or someone says, I got time, no, you don't. Let time do the heavy lifting. I take Henry or I take my son, for instance, who's 34 and his wife's 30. And if all I got was Henry to put in $7,000 a year for the next 5 years, he invested $35,000 in his total lifetime. He will be worth somewhere north of $5 million if he did nothing more the rest of his life.
Oh my gosh.
So when I hear youth doing this and saying that I have time, you don't. What you're doing is kicking the can down the road, and you're going to have a heavier lift down the road. So get in the game, stay in the game, let time do the heavy lifting. And that makes it so much easier on you, and you get to choose more later. But we don't have these conversations. There's a reason that there's an appendix in the book that is conversation starters for our youth. So parents can actually start the conversations with the kids.
It's so important. It's so important because, like I said, I've heard so many kids and I've talked to them and said, do it, like start now. It doesn't matter how old you are, start now. They just have this, because I think a lot of people think, my husband's had cancer, you had cancer, just different things that have happened in life. Everybody thinks, oh, we have so much time. We don't know how much time we have. So what we need to do is start taking actions, as what you're saying, to start building our money machine and our wealth plan so that we can live a full life. And as much as this book is about building the machine, it's also about building a legacy life and living that legacy life.
I would say that it's more about that, because the money piece without that is just mathematics.
Yeah.
It has no meaning. So it's why I've attached it to that, is that I believe that each of us were put here with a gift. And it is a gift that we were meant to nurture, a gift that we were meant to build and create and live fully expressed. But the challenge is that when we get too caught up in the daily grinds and we don't have the option, sometimes we don't nurture the gift. And I know it can be idealistic to say that because we have to pay bills, but it is a choice that we get to make as to how we earn our income, what kind of profession, what are we doing, how we're spending it, all those things. But we are bombarded with temptation and media and social media and comparison and all of those things that erode that pathway to nurturing the gift. And the challenge is that if we are meant to give the gift to the world. And if we don't, we're robbing the world of the gift that we were put here to do. And the difference is this: on that day that you decide to leave this earthly place, you don't get to take the gift with you. You have to turn around and hand it to the world, whatever it is, and let them take it the rest of the way. So I think that we need to nurture it. And the way we nurture it is to have the option to spend the time to do that. I feel blessed to be able to do that. It was not the reason I did things the way I did. Truth be told, at the beginning, I was driven by the money. Until I realized, oh, it's more than the money, and how important it was.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, really, and you and I have had this conversation so many times, like really, and the more we chase the money runs the other direction. That's how I look at it. But if we are putting the right intention behind what we're doing, and we're really taking time to live and to do the things that we want to do with the people that we love, but building the strategy and the plan to be able to do that, I mean, it just makes for a rich life, which I'm going to segment into my last question, because this has been such a great conversation. And I know so many people that are listening to this. And Henry, if you're listening, we love you. We think you're doing an amazing job. We have to get Henry to listen now.
Yes.
But my last question that I wanted to ask before we give people all the goods on where they can pre-order this book, because I mean, we only scratch the surface as far as what's in the book, and also what you can learn with Mel in his program. I always get it wrong. The Affluence Blueprint. Yes.
Yep.
I always call it Affluent Entrepreneur, but that's his podcast. So you have to go listen to the podcast. And I listened to the podcast where you talked about the 1% and the recipe. And I'll tell you what, it was, I mean, it gave me so many light bulb moments. So check out the Affluent Entrepreneur. And definitely, like I said, we just scratched the surface for what is in the book and also what is in his program. But I want to ask you one more question, because this came up on a call that I was on right before I got on with Mel. And, you know, everybody's using the word authentic out there, and authenticity. And it's like people are completely misconstruing what the word means and telling people how to show up authentically. And it's totally like, I don't know, it's just going crazy. Same thing with the word rich. People overuse and use the word rich. And it's gotten so, I think that's why people find talking about money taboo, and, you know, all these they're afraid to talk about finances or whatever. What is your definition of rich? And what do you think about how it's being used out there today?
So I'll start with how I think it's being used. I think it's being misused as a marketing ploy to make promises to people that in many cases are not real. Some dude, I'm just going to say some dude, I wanted to use a choice word, is out there and he's on TikTok and he's saying, you're better off buying a $200,000 R8 as an investment than going and spending money on a Toyota Camry. You'll make money on it. No, you won't. He says it's a transfer of wealth. Yes, it is a transfer of wealth to the dealership. You're an idiot. I'm sorry. But you're teaching people that these things are the way to get rich. I got news for you. There's no simple way to get rich. And I don't like the use of the term rich in the way they're using it. I use the term rich in a very different way. Wealth, to me, is a statistic. That is the bank account. That is the investment. There's no emotion to it. It is just a number. In fact, it is arbitrary, because some people say, I just want $1 million. Why? I don't know. Sounds good. Yeah, it's arbitrary. The $1 million has no meaning until you decide what kind of life it's going to give you. And if that is the life you dream of, that's why you build the money. That's why you build the money machine. We always start, even in the book, even in my training, you start with the vision of your life. Because if we're not going towards that, what are we going towards? What the media told us, what marketing told us, what social media, what TikTok tells us is the way to live? It's not. Richness is not in the bank account. Richness, you will not find a rich life in your bank account. You will find it in the things and the way you feel and how you experience life. The moments in the way you live it and who you share it with. That's what brings richness. If I was alone, if I didn't have my amazing wife, if I didn't have my dogs, if I didn't have my son and my grandchildren and the friends that I get to share time with, if I didn't have that and I had the same amount of wealth that I have, I would be a lonely, miserable person. And people from the outside would look at me and go, look at him. He's driving a nice car. He lives on the beach. He's doing this. He's doing that. But I'm miserable because there's no richness in my life. Richness is in the feeling. Richness is in the experiences. And we need the money. Financial freedom, honestly, is the most rudimentary freedom you could strive for. It's not where you stop. There's two freedoms above that. It is about time freedom first. Measure your wealth in time. Measure your wealth in the moments of your life you get to control. There, you'll find richness because that means that you're living in choice and not demand. And so I look at richness through the eyes of time. I look at richness through the eyes of emotion. I look through richness at the eyes through experience and look at it that way and say, that's how I want to experience life. That's my rich life. How do I build the machine to make that the reality? Sorry, I got emotional.
So good. So good. So good. So tell me, actually, thank you so much for joining me. I got all flabbergasted after that. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all of your wisdom and your insight here. Like I said, everybody, you have got to pre-order this book. I pre-ordered it. I got a bundle because I'm going to give it to everybody I know. But Mel, where can they go to A, find you, and B, pre-order this book? And we're going to include this in the show notes too. So in case you miss it, it will be in the show notes. You can click on it and go there. But Mel, tell them, where can they find you?
So where they can find me, primarily on Instagram, Mel Abraham 9. Also Mel Abraham on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that's growing like crazy right now. And we're putting out multiple videos a week, training, tactics, tools, things to do. And that is consistent with my show, the Affluent Entrepreneur Show. The book, just go to yourmoneymachinebook.com. Okay.
Cool.
There you'll find a page and you can go to the different retailers from that page, whether you're in the UK, Canada, it doesn't matter. Order the book. Come back to that page, put your receipt in. When you put your receipt in, what I'm going to do is we're going to gift you a number of wealth resources. The purpose of that is to support your journey to financial freedom, to get you accelerated, to give you the tools. My job is to educate, equip, and empower you so you can look at a new financial destiny for the first time or for the next time. It doesn't matter, but for this time in your life, because I truly believe that you have the opportunity to be the financial inflection point in your whole family tree if you do this right.
So good. So good. Well, thank you so much, Mel, for joining me. And thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of the C-Suite Mentor with my mentor, Mel Abraham. So everyone, I will see you back here next week. And remember, let's all take care of each other just a little bit more than we already do. Have a great weekend, everyone. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you found value on the show, please follow the podcast so you never, ever miss an episode. And I would love if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for me. Even better, share the show with a fellow business owner ready to step fully into their CEO leadership role. Because right now, more than ever, the world really needs next level leaders. And by the way, did you know you can text me all your questions and get real-time feedback? You absolutely can. Just text the word CEO to me at 610-215-2838 to get connected. One last goodie for you before I go. If you're ready to scale your business and have a co-creator working right by your side, my C-Suite Mentor Program may be perfect for you and your possible new second in command. Just visit thecsuitementor.com to get started.